two types of people. People who are actually business owners and people who are income producers. And there's a very distinct difference. So let me give you an example. This goes back to a book Robert Kiyosaki wrote, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so you've got employed, self-employed, business owner, investor, or else you're on the dole. Okay? Employed, you work for somebody. Most of us got involved in business because we worked for somebody, we were doing all the work, they were making all the money, and either somebody suggested to you, you should go out and do this yourself, or we got fed up ourselves and we eventually decided to become self-employed and start ourselves. So we start off, and you can be self-employed and have 10 or 20 people working with you, okay? But you're still self-employed if you are an income producer. And by that I mean, if you don't work, it doesn't work, okay? What we're really talking about here is getting from the self-employed to a business owner, okay? And another word for business owner is actually systems owner. You own a system that makes money, okay? And really this is where the 3 to 5 comes in, okay? It helps you get across here. And then an investor, and we'll talk about that later on, that's how you literally become an investor in your own business. But, so let's go back to this. Business owner's game versus the income producer's game. The business owner's game, what's the business owner's game? Let me remind you.
To make more
It's
money
how to
in
make
less
more
time.
money in less time, okay? And in order to do that, there's 2 questions you need to ask yourself. The first question is, ask yourself, is what I'm doing the highest and best use of my time? Okay? Fact of life is, you have 24 hours in your day, you're not getting any more. So you have to figure out how to get more out of your time. And that's by focusing on what's the highest and best use of your time. So if what you're doing, you ask yourself that question, what's the highest and best use of my time? And you answer no. The next question is, how do I get to where this is the last time I do this? So a simple example, if you're doing your own VAT return, is it the highest and best use of your time? In most cases, no. So how do you get to where you stop doing it? Well, you get somebody else to do it. But I haven't got the money is the general response. But you're spending 10 hours doing your VAT return, which if you get somebody who knew what they were doing, they'd have it done in 2 hours, and it would actually save you money. Because what you paid them, the time it released for you, you could actually go and do something and be more productive. But one of our challenges is that we fill our days with activity because we've nothing better to do. Because we're just focusing on the grind and what we're doing. So let's just explain these 2 different things. Business owner game versus the income producer's game. And if you look at the income producer's game, that's the way business tends to go. I've got no business, I go out, drum up some business, then I go and I react to it and deal with it. Because I'm not out in the marketplace, business dries up, I have no business, then I have to go back out in the marketplace, and it's just a continual process of this. The business owner's game, different, out in the market, and as they're growing their business, they're investing in their business. Okay? You can't control what's happening in the marketplace, but you can control how you respond to it. And so there's a bit of a dip in the market or whatever, but you've invested in certain areas in the way through, and it'll carry you through and give you momentum, and that's how you build your business. The difference between a business owner and an income producer, the business owner is living and thinking strategically. The income producer is living and thinking tactically. I'll give you an example. Back here, neither of us have got any sales. So the income producer, what can I do to get a sale? The business owner, okay, what strategy are we going to use to build our sales? This is a one-off event. This is a process. This is something we're going to commit to. Okay? And just look at the difference here. Okay? The business owner focuses on what's important. The income producer focuses on what's urgent. The urgent stuff just comes at you. The phone rings, emails, customers, all that stuff just happens to you. You can't stop it. The important stuff, you have to determine what's important for you in your business. Now, how do you figure out what's important for you? Well, the first thing you need to do is figure out where it is that you want to go, what is it you want to do. Then you figure out what's important in order to get you there. So what's important for me may not be exactly the same as what's important for you, based on the fact that you and I want to go in 2 different directions. So that's the most important thing. Where are you going? The vision, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to create? Okay? So let's look at these things. The business owner seeks an abundant mindset. Income producer is scarcity mindset. There's not enough I have to get, you know. There's more than enough. Business owner responds to the situation. Income producer reacts. What's the difference between reacting and responding, do you think? Well, respond to a certain extent is a learn. You can learn how to do that. If you ever think about it, I was in FedEx there a few weeks back in Memphis, and they were showing us they had these simulators for training their own pilots. And so the pilot would be in, and the co-pilot, and the trainer would be pressing the computer and creating a fire in the engine, a flock of birds, a storm, whatever. Okay, and what they're trying to do is they're training the pilots to respond to the change in circumstances, not to react. Okay, and there's a huge difference in that. And we need to start to learn to train ourselves in how to respond as opposed to reacting. So one of your employees makes a mess of a job, or loses you a client, or costs you a fortune doing something. Do you react or respond? There's a great story about a guy in IBM. Let's go back a number of years when Tom Watson was the CEO. And I think the number is, the guy cost IBM something like $8 or $80 million, whatever he did. And he came in to Tom Watson and tendered his resignation. And Tom Watson lifted it apparently and tore it up and put it in the bin. He said, we just spent 8 or 80 million training and educating you. You're not going anywhere. Okay? So you've got to see that as well. It's how you interpret situations and circumstances. Excuse me. They're an investor as opposed to a saver. Saving up for a rainy day as opposed to investing for the future. Again, it's a mindset. Look at this. Business owner sees things as an investment. Here, they see things as an expense. How many of us, whenever we get our business to a certain stage, we need to take on a rep or take on another employee, and we just see them as an expense as opposed to seeing them as an investment? Now, what do you think your mindset's going to be if I am looking at employing you and I've got a mindset, this is an expense, or this is an investment? Do you think my attitude towards how I'm going to encourage you and move you along is going to be different? Risk practicing mindset. They've got a fear of failure success mindset. So we see things as failures or success as opposed to risk practicing. Sometimes you have to do things poorly before you can get to do them well. Think about it. You know, whenever you were learning how to walk as a child, after 3 attempts, did your mother and father say, right, that's it, finish, you're no more walking for you, you're useless? No, they encouraged you and cajoled you and, okay, what do we do? Long-term thinking versus short-term thinking. It's this short-term thinking that keeps us living in the urgent, reacting to everything. Okay? You need to have some long-term thinking so that you'll make decisions for the long term. And that's one of our biggest challenges. I keep making my decisions based on the circumstances I'm in. A key to success is making your decisions based on where it is you want to be. There's a plate of biscuits sitting on the plate. I would love a biscuit. It satisfies me where I'm standing here today in my circumstance. I love a biscuit. But long term, I want to get into my bikini going on my holidays in 2 weeks. I ain't eating a biscuit. So you've got to make your decisions based on where it is you want to be, not in the circumstances and where you're at. Because when I make my decisions based on my circumstance, I'm reacting. When I make my decisions based on where it is I want to go, I'm responding. It puts me in control. Proactive for being a business owner versus reactive. Okay, we react to things. Okay, or are you proactive? You look and see, you're conscious of what's going on about you. I mean, there's a great expression that says, learn to live life at a conscious level. I met an old guy years ago called Wally Minto. Interesting guy. And he gave me a book, and the inside of it, I was only about in the early 20s, and he wrote in the inside of it, John, learn to live life at a conscious level. And I wasn't very smart. And I asked him, Wally, what do you mean? He says, John, think about what you think about. He says, are your thoughts moving you and serving you in the direction that you want to go? Or are your thoughts sabotaging yourself? Think about this. How many of us have started off, we're going to kill, get dead things. And then over a period of time, we have these continual thoughts that chip away at our confidence and everything else. And then we don't do what it is that we need to do. Okay? So, clear in your own head what you need to do to be different, to move from being an income producer to a business owner. Your most godlike quality is your imagination. Einstein said imagination is more valuable than knowledge. Okay? Too many of us are going learning things, but actually don't put it to any practice. Okay? The amount of people who are educated derelicts is amazing. There's loads of knowledge, but no application. So don't let that be you. Use what you know, move it forward. Okay? Any questions on that?